My guest today is John Landry. He played high level junior hockey in Toronto alongside future NHL players like Adam Oates and Al MacInnis. He battled through adversity, including not being drafted, and even took his game overseas to Germany. Since then, he's built a successful roofing business, coached his kids through their hockey careers, and after a double knee replacement, is already planning his return to the ice. This is a story about resilience, reinvention, and what it really means to stay in the game. John, welcome to Shift Change. Okay, good morning, John. Welcome in.
Thanks. Good to be here,
Hey,
Rich.
so I'm glad you were able to be on the pod with me. We've had a couple of pretty good guests. We had Brett on one day, and Brett did a really good job with it. We had Craig Stewart on the other day, and he did a really good job with it. Cole has been on, but I wanted to bring you on because I know you have a really interesting hockey story and background, and I just wanted to touch on it a little bit today, and talk about where you are now, and I know where you are now, but we'll talk about it. But I want to get into your early days. How did you get into hockey? Was it a family thing? Did your dad play? Where did you start? What organization did you start in?
It's funny. I just remember coming home from school one day. I heard an announcement, I think it was like grade two, to enroll in hockey. And I came home and I remember my dad going through the yellow pages and found an arena and jumped into house league and never stopped from there. Just
Yeah.
kept
Did your
going.
dad play?
I think just like near league hockey, didn't play anywhere really.
Yeah.
So even
Yeah.
when I see my
Okay.
dad skate now, like a few years ago, he still can't skate, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So.
So you went off to Markham Waxers. So the pretty storied organization. They've been around forever. Was that like midget hockey?
No, the Waxers was OJ, like tier two, but
Oh,
that was a
junior.
great experience because it was junior A tier two. That was a great experience because I was playing minor midget with the Toronto Marlies and I got called up to them. And they had Oates and Thomas there that everybody had looked past, and they were just lighting it up. I think Oates still holds the record for points in a season, and Thomas set the record for goals. And it was nice. I was an underage playing with them, and it was just nice to
Okay.
watch them. And they worked together, and they were so good.
So you were probably what, 14, and they were probably 17 at that time, right? Or
I was
18?
actually, yeah, I just turned 15, so I was like wearing a screen, and everybody had like beards and mustaches, and I was so intimidated. It was pretty funny. But to watch those two
Yeah.
work together, they and Thomas, it was funny because he got to try out with the Marlies. He was never drafted. And then from the Marlies, he got to the Leafs and he was never, drafted and had a pretty good career for a guy that everybody looked over because they said he was too small, right?
Yeah. Do you know Adam Oates is the number two scorer in NHL history by players that have never been drafted,
Are you
only to Wayne
serious?
Gretzky. Yeah, he's got
Wow.
more points than any other undrafted player other than Gretzky.
He was a class act. He was our captain. And I
Yeah.
remember he got a scholarship, but back then you had to get grade 13. So they made him go to summer school to pick up like 3, 4 credits, so he qualified to go off to a scholarship, and which he went. And I think he went to RPI, and I think he lit it up there pretty good too. So
Yeah, it was a New York school, wasn't it? Or
yeah, I think it
no.
was. And I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I think there was a guy Nelson Emerson was his winger, and he Emerson ended up being a pretty big player, and I think it had a lot to do with Otzi, like setting him up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean,
So
could you tell at that age, whatever he was at 16 or 17, could you tell at that age he was different than everybody?
I just couldn't believe I got called up, and these two guys, I'm thinking, why aren't they in the OHL? I just remember thinking, how good you got to be if these two guys aren't in there?
Yeah,
Because they were
true.
overlooked. And I was like, wow, there you
Yeah.
go. But I think people just missed them because they
Yeah.
were special players for sure.
Yeah. So you get drafted in the OHL. I think you went second round. When did you get drafted in
Yeah,
the
I went
OHL?
22nd overall. So yeah, it was
Okay.
right at the beginning of the second round to Kingston. So
To
it was
Kingston.
good.
So that was your first team.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then what
All
happened
right.
was Kitchener had won the Memorial Cup the year before, and they lost Bellows, Scott Stevens, and Al McGinnis. So they traded for me over to Kitchener because they were weak on defense. They didn't have anybody. And then at Christmas time, Al McGinnis came back from Calgary, which was pretty good to watch, play with him too. Like there was games I was
Yeah.
paired up with him, and he would just let us shot, and nobody could see it, including the goalies. Right? He had a cannon
Yeah.
on him.
So
But
even at that 17 or 18-year-old age, McInnes could fire the puck, eh?
he came home that year. I'll never forget, and he was scoring like in bunches. And Bobby Orr's record that year, I think, was 38 goals. And Al didn't come back till Christmas time. And in the last game of the year, he needed 5 goals. And Guelph was an expansion team. They weren't very good. They had Kurt Muller as a young underage guy. But Joe Crozier, our coach, had left Al on the whole game basically. And we beat Guelph, I think, 13-1, if I remember. And Al got
Wow.
5 goals to tie Bobby Orr's
Wow.
record on the last game of the year, which was, if he would have played the full year, he would have shattered it, obviously.
Right.
But
So
but it was
Calgary
always a
brought him up,
what?
right? Calgary brought him up to the NHL right after the draft, but then sent him back down.
Yeah, I think he came down around Christmas, so only played half a season, so it was pretty amazing to get 38
Okay.
goals. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
there was talk that Stevens and Bellows could come back because they were only 18 years old. And I thought if they come back, we're definitely going to the Memorial Cup again. But we lost
Yeah.
to the Sioux. I think the Sioux had Tocchet as their captain and Van Viesbroek in that, and they knocked us out. I think in 7 games. And then I think they went on to the Memorial Cup, but they didn't win that year.
Wow. So is McInnes in the Hall of Fame? I think he is, isn't he?
I think he is, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, so is Adam Oates. So I mean, here you are, you're 16 in the OHL or 17, and you're playing with two. You've played with two Hockey Hall of Famers already.
Yeah, what was wild about Kitchener was I think 12 players off that team made the NHL, which was pretty good.
Wow.
And a funny story
Yes.
too, Rich, with McGinnis, we had Wendell Young as our goalie,
Yep.
and our backup goalie, I actually don't ever remember him playing a game ever. But in practice, Joe Crozier told Al he's not allowed to shoot on Wendell Young. He had to shoot on the backup goalie because he didn't want to risk hurting Wendell. So it was always the backup goalie, never Wendell. And I thought if Wendell got hurt, we were in big trouble because I think this goalie we had, I don't remember his name, but I don't think he played a game the whole year. Wendell just went every game, but it was pretty funny how he wasn't allowed to shoot on him.
So Kitchener Rangers and then on to Sudbury. Was that a trade as well?
Yeah, they needed a goalie the next year. Crozier had contract issues with Kitchener. I think he went off the Rochester Americans, and they shipped me up to Sudbury and traded for a goalie to Kitchener. And I mean, I didn't enjoy Sudbury like Kitchener because they were losing a lot. And they
Oh,
played North Bay and the Sioux a lot because of travel. And North Bay and Sioux were like first and second place, and we just kind of got beat up for 2 years basically because we were playing two powerhouses. So
yeah.
it was a rough schedule.
Yeah. What stood out about that team? Anything? Was there any players on there that went on or that you
The only
still
one that
see?
went on was Jeff Brown. He was our underage, and they played him forward mostly. They said he wouldn't make it as a defenseman. They would said it wasn't tough enough, so he played on the right wing a lot, and then Jeff went on. I think he had a pretty good career. He even got injured a lot in junior, and I think he got injured a lot in the NHL. But
Yeah.
I think Jeff, Jesus, I don't know how many games he would have played, but he was a class act, good guy. And it was funny going from a team where 12 guys made the NHL, and I went to a team for 2 years where I think just one guy made the NHL, but we were a bottom end team. It was tough up there.
They sent a goalie for you then, eh?
Yeah, some goalie I don't know if it ever worked out. And that year, Kitchener they went to the Memorial Cup again that year. It was too bad I got traded because they rebounded and
Yeah.
they didn't win it, but they got there and we didn't even make the playoffs. So it was like because I was still following them and kind of wishing I was in Kitchener still.
Yeah.
But Kitchener's
So
a pretty class organization. I think to this day it's still pretty good.
how many seasons in Sudbury was it for you?
2 seasons I was up there, and
Okay.
it was funny. The only reason I probably would have finished my career there, but I broke a curfew, and so they traded me to the Marlies in my
So John
last
Landry
year.
didn't follow all the rules?
Well, it was funny. We were losing so much. The coach gave us curfews, Rich, that said, be in by 7 o'clock at night, and thought it was too early. So I thought I was a smartass, and he phoned me at 7 o'clock, and I said I was home, and then I went out. And so I didn't know he'd call again. And he called again. I don't know. I think I got in 1 or 2 in the morning. He called and I answered. He said, just get in. I was like, oh no, coach. He says, get to my office. So he sent me home, suspended me basically. And then the
Yeah.
Mollies found out and said, don't let Sudbury know we know you're home. We'll have you in a uniform the next day. And they did. And it was great. And I joked that if
Wow.
I would have known that would have happened, I would have broke curfew 2 years earlier in Sudbury
Yeah, right.
to play at home.
So
But
so you're on to the Marlies. Now, historic organization, um, owned by Harold Ballard. So let's spend a minute on the Marlies because even today they're the premier youth hockey program in Canada. I mean, Connor McDavid played there. You know, you name it, big names in the NHL have all played there. What was that experience like in Toronto?
that was, that was amazing because Maple Leaf Gardens that's where we were. And most times the Leafs would practice before us and we would go in after. It was always closed, but you felt special just being able to go in. I'd stand there and Boreas Salmings on the Leafs and you'd be in awe watching all the guys you watch on TV. And we'd go on afterwards and they'd talk to us. And it was just like, I don't know, it was just really nice being in the gardens. It was pretty cool. And then we'd watch our video in the Leafs dressing room. So I always remember I'd fight to sit in Boreas Salming's stall. His was like 3 times the size of everybody else's, so I'd try and sit there and we'd watch our game videos. But it was special playing there. It really was. Sean Burke as a goalie, which he went on to have a pretty good career.
Right.
So, but no, the Marlies was special. You almost felt like you were. And then we'd see Ballard. He'd come around, team photos and everything. And he said he loved the Marlies more than the Leafs, but it was nice just to meet him. It was pretty cool too.
Any stories about Ballard?
Um, they're just stories, mostly like, you were in Kitchener and everywhere else, and if you broke a stick, they gave you one. They were on such a budget with Toronto. I guess Ballard was known as a bit of a cheap guy, but if you broke a stick, you had to go see the GM, and he would put a signature on it. You'd go see the trainer, and then you were awarded a new stick. Like it was a bit of a process. So he was a bit of a penny pitcher. Like they would get mad
Yeah.
at us. We'd have like a Toronto, Cornwall, Ottawa. We'd have a 3-day road trip way out east. We would come back each night because he didn't want to pay for a hotel. So where other
Wow.
teams would like stay in Ottawa, hit Cornwall, hit Kingston, and they'd say, oh, on the bus, bring your lunch. Well, other teams would like bring on pizza or KFC. We weren't eating that healthy back then. But it was funny
Wow.
how it was like such a big organization, a lot of money, how they really penny pinched. So it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But
How about the jerseys?
well, our jerseys, I think I told you, Rich, how we would get the hand-me-downs from the Leafs, and they would just throw a crown over the Toronto. So when you turned your shirt inside out, it said Toronto Maple Leafs on it, and you had the crown over it. And it was funny because one year I was wearing number 21. I had Salming's old shirts, and he was blocking shots and everything, so it was stitched up and puck marks. The shirt would just look like a goalie shirt. But
Yeah.
I was only like 18, 19. I think I'm wearing Salming's old shirt. That's all I cared about. I thought it was kind of cool, right? But it was
Yeah.
they were pretty beat up shirts. But no, it was special. Like playing for the Marlies is really special. So it's
Yeah.
good.
I mean, but growing up in Toronto, that's the premier team in Toronto then, right?
Oh, at the Gardens, all your friends would come. At 18, 19,
Yeah.
you got all your buddies hanging around you. I remember we
Yeah.
would do Tuesday afternoon games, I think, once in a while. So the high school I went to, the principal would come on and say, "Hey, John's playing today," and half the school would be there too. So you kind of felt you were walking around school the next day a little bit taller. It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you got
Yeah.
away with
That's
a lot
awesome.
more. So it was good.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. That's awesome. So just going back to Kitchener now, I know you've had a relationship with Joe Crozier that wasn't great. Challenging, I guess, is how I describe it, right?
Yeah.
What was that like, and how did it get to that point?
When I first got there, he built me up pretty good. So you're going to be a really high NHL draft pick. But I was having knee issues and I had a bad game and I swore at him. Well, I didn't swear at him. I answered kind of lippy. So he called it Landry's lip service. He loved
John La-
team meetings.
John Landry got lippy.
Yeah. Imagine that, hey, Rich?
I
So it was,
can't imagine.
so the thing on Joe Crozier was they said he loved meetings. He would have meetings all the time. Like he would just sit back and kind of let everybody else talk about it. But for about a month, he started with Landry's lip service for quite a while. And once I got in his doghouse, I had such a hard time getting out. But if there was some games, he was a great coach in a way that, um, even if he didn't, uh, play you for a game and the next game he gave you that shift, you ran through the wall for him. It was, I don't know how to explain it. Like he was really good at, you would just give him everything. Even if you were mad as hell at him, you would just go for him. he had everybody just going. And if you were getting, playing the whole game, you were doing it. And if he gave you one shift, you were doing it. So he was pretty good. And he even said in the meetings all the time, he says, "This is such a good team. I just stand here and open the door." But I
Yeah.
guess it was
Yeah.
keeping everybody in check was his big thing. And he was good at it. I was really looking forward to when I went back to Kitchener, him coming back. And I think he had contract issues or something. And I thought when I come back, we're going to hit it off. And at the end of the year, he called me in the office and said, "I was wrong about you." And that looked like going forward was going to be good. And he never came back. And I was kind of disappointed that way too.
What was the
So,
famous saying he said about the pool halls?
oh, he said to me in practice one day, he said, "I'll see you rotting the pool halls." And my answer was, "I don't play pool. Like rather than just say, oh, but of course my sports service again, right?" But
Right,
he,
right. I
Joe,
mean,
Joe,
he went on to have a great career, right? I mean, he coached Rochester. He went on to Buffalo. He actually put the French Connection together.
oh, did he really?
He was the guy who put Robert, Martin, and Perot together. So that's
Wow.
kind of what his claim to fame. And he's pretty beloved in Buffalo, and
Yeah, he
he
even
lived there.
when he came to Kitchener, I think he had coached the Leafs. I don't know how for a couple years, and they fired him, and then he came to Kitchener from the Leafs. And he
Yeah,
would even talk about Salming that he. I remember in team meetings he was mad because Salming he always said would practice whenever he wanted. Like he couldn't. If Salming came out and practice, come around, flip a few pucks and leave, and Salming had more power than he did, and he would always tell us that. And
yeah,
I guess Salming called the shots, but um, that was funny with Joe's meetings. He did talk about his coaching elites quite a bit too.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. But so then your career, the last year comes and it's time to be drafted, and you play with a lot of guys who got drafted. What was it like? Not hearing your name called when did you think you were going to be drafted?
I kind of thought so back then, if you didn't go in the first year of your OHL, the second and third year were really hard. Um, so I remember Joe Crozier calling me in at the end of the year, and I went in his office. He had me highlighted at the time at 101, the first guy in the sixth round. And he even said to me, he said, "I told everybody not to touch you, and you're not going to get drafted." And I walked out of there and I thought, that's not going to happen. I'm going to get drafted.
Yeah,
And we had guys come up for a game from tier two here and there, and they actually got drafted, ninth round, 10th round, and they didn't touch me. And it was pretty wild. He called the shots. And I don't know if I told you too, Rich, where he didn't dress me for some practices. Because I was falling so fast and he wasn't playing me, he'd say in Kitchener Odd, he'd say, we're working on power play today. You're going to jog around the odd. And I was trying to get back to his good books. I'm like, okay. And you'd see three guys in suits sitting in the stands. And I remember he told me three different occasions Scotty Bowman had come in. Actually, I think Scotty was with the Sabres at the time. And he says, he came in to watch you today. I didn't dress you for practice. And Bill Torrey, the Islanders, was one, and Harry Sinden of the Bruins. Those three teams came in, and he told me,
wow.
and he made me run so they couldn't watch me in practice because I was just falling rapidly. And they wanted, I guess it was the only way they could see me, and he didn't dress me for practice. So he really, we really didn't get along too well.
Yeah,
But I
but
tried, and I think I had dug a hole too deep I couldn't get out of.
you dug it too early, eh?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
no matter what I tried, and then sometimes he gave me a shot. Like I remember one day in practice, he said something to me, and I said, "I can't understand that scribbling." And just, I don't know why he even answered it like that. Like he always had this white thing with a marker, and it was scribbling. It was pretty hard to understand. But he said,
yeah,
"You understand that?" And I should have just said, "Yes, coach." And
yeah,
obviously I gave the wrong answer again. And I don't know. I was in a hole and I couldn't get out. It wasn't good.
yeah. But I mean, if a kid said to you today, "Hey, John, I'm playing junior hockey and I got a coach I just can't connect with," I mean, what would you tell a young kid today, knowing what you went through and how you handled it?
Well, it's funny because I ended up coaching my son at AAA hockey in Toronto. And
Yep,
now I know I would say what right things I would say,
yeah,
like I would teach them the things, that the coach wants to hear, whether you think it or
yep,
not, but just, but
yep,
yeah,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what happened back then. I guess it was a bad
yeah,
attitude, I guess. So
yeah.
it
But I
hasn't
guess,
changed, Rich.
John, everything happens for a reason, right? Like
Yeah, it does. I mean,
it does. I know a lot of times we get done skating and we watch, in the bar, NHL Network's on, and there'll be a guy on the NHL Network, and you'll be like, "Hey, I fought that guy."
Yeah,
I think it's hilarious. So, how much was fighting part of your junior career, and did you
well,
fight a
it's
lot?
funny. I got caught up in it a lot because actually Joe Crozier was one of the first ones. I remember we're in Belleville, and Belleville had Marty McSorley, and back then your warm ups on red line in, and he was standing at center whacking our players. I'll never forget. And he's hitting our players. And then he moved even closer, and our circle's getting smaller for warm up. I think he kind of almost moved to our blue line, and I'm skating around. And Joe calls me over the bench, "Go break his arm." And I'm like, "Okay." And I had no idea who he was, and it was one of my first fights. But I'm like, "Marty McSorley is one of your first fights." And then he kept saying, "Oh, you're a big guy, fight." And I kind of fell into that role, and it was hard to get out of. Then, like Al McGinnis said, there was a lot of bench clearings back then and everything. And I always
Yeah.
remember he'd jump behind me and hold my shirt. It was kind of funny, and because Al didn't, and I was a big guy, but he, obviously he didn't want to fight and he didn't need to.
Yeah. Wasn't
But
who
I
he
kind of
was,
got caught
right?
up in this role, and I was doing a lot of it, and I got away from hockey, so it kind of,
Yeah.
I look back.
So was McSorley your first fight?
I'm trying to think of Marty. I remember, actually, my first one could have been Bob Probert. I think we fought like three times, but he was Brantford Alexander's at the time, and I was in Kingston. Yeah, so that might have been
Okay.
one of my first ones. But
Is there one
um,
fight in your junior career that stands out where you're like, I kicked the crap out of that guy, or that guy kicked the crap out of me and I'll never forget it?
no, there were so many. I do remember one. I think there's a guy now down here in Arizona. His son Kostelic is on Boston. And I think he resides down here now. But he was London Knights, and I remember we got in a fight, and he hit me so good, and our team photo was the next day, and I had this big black eye, so they were trying to hide me in the back row in the shade, and I couldn't have had a worse black eye, and I still have this team photo to this day, but I got this big shiner in the back row, and it was the like day before pitcher day. I was like, geez, I should have picked a better time to fight, but it was pretty
Yeah.
funny.
It's hard
But
to hide John Landry at 6'2" and long golden blonde hair. How do you
yeah,
hide that guy?
yeah, but you could see the black eye, but they did a pretty good job going the back row under the shade. It was pretty funny, so it was good. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, there was a lot of them, and when I think back, it was good when like yourself when you go to Europe and you get away from it and you can play hockey again, and it was good to
Yeah.
go back to just playing hockey again because they
So
frowned on the fighting back then.
what led you to Germany? So the draft comes and goes, you're not drafted. How did Germany come about?
I was gonna at that time the OHL had two overages, and it looked like I was gonna be an overage with the Marlies. And a friend of mine I was skating with, this guy Larry Marsden, his brother Mike Marsden played Washington back in the 70s. And I think Larry still holds the scoring records at Ohio State. Unbelievable goal scorer. So he said in the summer, he says, "Do you want to come to Germany? And we'll pay you this much, house and car while you're there." And I was only 20 years old. And I said, "Sure, I'd love to." And I went over, and it was a great time. Like it was, but the only thing when I got there, they called me a kinder when I walked in the room because most guys that went over to Europe were at the end of their career. They'd send guys with experience, and they said, "Oh, they sent us a baby." I was like, "Oh," but it was a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
replaced a guy, Patty Graham. I don't know if you ever remember Patty Graham. He played with the Leafs.
Yeah.
So he was in Germany the year before me, but they were all about scoring goals. And Patty Graham was up and down his wing, you know, a tough guy, but he didn't score goals, and that's all they wanted was goals. So
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
lost a game,
I
they got a
think
couple goals.
Craig Stewart said the same thing. Your job was to score every game. If you didn't score, you were out of there. Um,
Yeah, it's
so
true.
what was the experience like? You just came out of playing in the Ontario Hockey League, which at the time was the league to play in back then in the 80s, right?
Yeah,
There was no leagues in the US that were even worth going to. So you go from this fast, tough OHL to Germany.
you know,
How was that adjustment?
well, it's funny. I get there, Rich, and I was kind of playing like the OHL. Like I wasn't rushing. I was like moving the puck up, taking my man, actually playing defense, which you'll find hard to believe. But I think after like 2 months, they called me in and said, "Oh, you've only got a couple of assists and no goals, and we're going to send you home on the transfer date." And I was like, "What?" And they said, "We want goals. And I'll never forget, we went to a city called Castle. We lost 7-2. I got both goals, but I caused all seven. They were all my fault. They thought this is the way we want you to play. Don't worry about the goalie. He's supposed to stop the puck, and I never changed since then. It was like, okay. And now
Wow.
I was in Germany a couple of years ago with my daughter, and we were watching the league, and they're playing like a soccer match over there now. It's like 2-1, 1-1. It's not open scoring now. Like it's totally changed. Like I find it's like soccer. They work their way back.
Yeah.
They wait for mistakes, but it's a really skilled league now too.
And I think they try to follow the NHL model because, their goal is to get players to the NHL. So they're raising kids over there. Or kids are growing up playing the NHL model, is what I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's true. They're developing kids now, and a lot of guys that went over there as imports had their kids there, and they've got dual citizenship in all the
Yeah.
countries. And I
Yeah.
think that's why
Yeah.
all the countries like Switzerland, they're all catching up to the U.S. and
Yeah.
Canada.
That's
It's
right.
really good.
Yeah. So then you play, over in Germany. Life after hockey. You meet your wife, and everybody knows Evie's the reason John Landry is on the straight and narrow. Because without your wife, we don't know what the heck you'd be doing right now. But
That's
you
true too.
started a roofing business. When did your roofing business start? Did you start that as a younger guy, or how did that come about?
It's funny. That's third generation. So my grandfather was in it, and then my dad had a business, and I was always doing it in the summers for hockey for a workout because it was really hard work. And I thought, oh, it's better going to the gym, get a tan, get a workout, and get paid for it. But I didn't realize I'd be doing that for a living. I thought it was just temporary. So, but that's how I ended up in that. That was a family business that was like
Okay.
it just closed after like 65 years. So, but
Okay.
it,
Wow.
it kept you honest, anyways.
But so playing hockey, and we all know as young kids, we grow up in hockey, we learn so much about life and being a teammate. And, I want to say respecting your coach, but we've already talked about that.
Yeah,
Um, what carried over from hockey into your work? You became an owner. So you, in theory, became a coach of your employees. Going through what you went through over the years in hockey, how did that affect you as an owner with employees?
I think I wasn't like a screamer or yeller at even my employees. Like I've had one guy with me over 30 years. And
Wow.
a lot of guys stayed with me, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I always treated them as if you want to be treated. I was sometimes people say, "Oh, you got to be more of a boss than a friend," and I guess I treated them like that. So
Yeah, you
it
find the
worked
common
well.
ground there, right? Because I mean, I own a business. You got to find the common ground between
Yeah,
boss and
there's a
friend, right?
fine line to ride. It's like when I was coaching AAA hockey. I didn't want to be that hard ass coach. I wanted them to come to the ring, give me 100%, have a little giddy up in their step, and have fun. Like I wanted them to be the hardest working team. We were
Yeah,
never when I was coaching, we were about middle of the pack. We weren't the most talented, but I wanted to ride this fine line where they were having fun, but they were just working their ass off for me.
yeah,
And I didn't want them to
yeah,
be scared of me or scared to make a mistake.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it was good, but it's a hard line to follow too sometimes.
yeah. And and going into coaching, because I did it for years too, John. And I coached my kids from mites to midgets and into high school hockey. And I always thought being a coach, you had to be an asshole. That's
Hmm.
what I thought you had to be because that's what the coaches were when you and I were growing up. When you look at
Yeah,
coaches like Mike Keenan, right, and Lindy Ruff back in the 80s, and these guys were jerks. Like they treated these guys, they ruled with fear. And
yeah, that's right.
you can't do that today. You just can't. The kids aren't that way. So that's kind of what you kind of went into it with a different thought process, right?
Yeah, I remember the organization even calling me aside and says, "Oh, the rumor is you're too much of a nice guy as a coach." And I thought, "Well, I think I'm doing fine, but I thought, how do I change that? What do you want me to go yell at them next practice? But it just wasn't in me. I just had fun with them, and
Yeah.
most of the kids want to come back, even though we're middle of the pack. And then I really
Yeah.
enjoyed. I was actually coaching my daughter at girls hockey, and if anybody gets into coaching, I mean, now there's a professional league for it, but that was a lot of fun because the parents, there was no NHL for them. So the girls is more of a relaxed atmosphere and they're playing hockey because of the love of the game and they just have
Yep.
fun. where the boys, I mean, every parent thinks their kid's going to the show, and the stress and the anxiety and,
Yeah.
we're just crazy. But I wonder if girls is changing now because of the professional league now. Now there is a league for them to shoot for. But
Yeah.
girls
Yeah.
hockey was just such a, I was coaching both at the same time. You'd run a AAA boys practice and it was like so intense, and you go over to the girls and it was like a breathe of fresh air. Like it was just so nice.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was
And your
good.
daughter's a good little hockey player. I mean, which she's probably, is she 30 yet?
She just turned 31 and she's
Yeah.
still playing in the senior A league at home with a bunch
Yeah.
of girls I used to coach, and they're still friends to this day, which is awesome. That's what I like about
Yeah.
hockey. Even, like we're older now, and I remember the first year I came down here, they said, "Oh, you'll be home in 2 weeks," because I came by myself because Edie's still working. And they said, "You'll be home in 2 weeks. As soon as you walk in that dress room and drop your bag, you got like 20 new friends." And
Yeah.
I'm glad I have hockey later on in life, just because if I didn't have it, like you wouldn't have all the friends you have. Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everybody that's playing is good people.
Yeah, and you and I sit next to each other in the locker room, and we're the reason why half the guys we skate with are in a different locker room. You and I are too loud. They say
That's,
you and I don't shut the hell up, and then they throw Barry in there, and we're just too
yeah.
loud. But you're right, and I talk about it on every podcast with everybody I talk to. The locker room's why we're there, and it's what we're there for first. We get on the ice and we have fun. It's great, but I just enjoy being around my friends. Um,
You know what the best part too is I always find too when you go in that locker room, if you're in there an hour before, all the problems you have in life and everything, it's like a bunch of guys going up to do the same thing, and you forget your problems for the next hour or two. You
yeah,
have a laugh, and then you go home and you go back to your life, and it's
yeah,
great. But I find everybody there are really good people and good friends. And
yeah.
man, if you didn't have hockey later in your life, it'd be like, I don't know. I think it's great. Like, I think it's so good,
Yeah.
especially the
And I
people
think,
you meet. Like, look at all of our friends down here. It's all because of we're skating over 50, right?
yeah, exactly. And I think you still play with guys you grew up with in tournaments. And then when you're back in Toronto in the winter, you're still playing with or youth guys that you grew up with, right?
Yeah, and playing with guys I grew up with at home, that skate's getting really fast because a lot of guys my age and stuff have kids that are in the OHL or at university and in Europe. So they come home in the summer and they want to keep skating. And that's a fast skate. Like you
Yeah.
realize how old you're getting when these young kids and they're all the kids these days, they can fly. And I remember I said
Yeah.
to the guy that runs it, I said, why don't we turn this into a 50 and over, like, down in Arizona? And he looked at me and says, we only have like three guys here. I'm like, oh my God. But
Right.
it is like when those kids come down, it's nice to watch, but it is tough to
Yeah.
play too. So I
Yeah.
kind of wish
Yeah.
it was a little bit slower as we're getting older.
Well, speaking of that angle, going back to coaching in youth, were there any guys you coached in your son's level that actually went on to the NHL?
I didn't have any on my team, but
Okay.
like Coffee was coaching against us. He had the Marlies, and they didn't. I don't think they lost a game all year because you got Paul Coffey as a head coach and the Marlies, and everybody just lined up to play for him.
Yeah.
He had, I think he had McLeod, Radish. I think he had about five kids go. Chikrin was on another team. Chikrin went. I guess
Yeah.
Kairu. Actually, Kairu played with my son one year after I stopped coaching.
Okay.
There's probably about 8 to 10 kids, but they're all 28 years old now in the NHL.
Yeah. Yeah.
That went, and that was wild because some kids. It was funny how some kids had such a big name and they burnt out, and then other kids that would just kept working at it. Like Kairu was one that he was kind of like he was good, but they didn't talk about him, and he went on to have an unbelievable career with St. Louis now. Like he's really playing well. And
Yeah.
the
I think you
Riders,
would have. Did you coach McBain too?
I had Jack McBain. He was an underage, so it was a cool story, Rich. Back when my Bantam year, we had a team they assembled, and I don't think we lost the game all year. But we had Andrew McBain, Zazzle. We had a few guys, myself. And later on, we came back to Don Mills Flyers organization, and Zazzle was coaching a year above me, and McBain was below me. And it was funny to come back to the organization where we all played as a 14-year-old and we were coaching. And then to see my son wear the same jersey I did was, I was like, it was pretty cool. But I would call
Yeah.
Jack McBain up. He actually at one point was going up 2 levels of AAA, and he was a bit of a sloppy skater. And but he unbelievable kid. Like his Andrew's done an amazing job with him. Jack's a great kid. I had him for
Yeah.
2 years in house league too when he was like 8 years old. And but Jack's just an amazing kid. That's why
And
I
now
love
he's,
when I could chat with him when the Coyotes were here. It was good to talk to
yeah.
Jackie.
Yeah.
You talk him off the ice, the politest kid in the world, and then you put that helmet on him. He's got an edge to him out there. Like he
Yeah.
ain't messing around. But
So could
he's
you
a
see at a young age that Jack was a good player, and he's in Utah right now, and they're in the playoffs, but he's having a great career in Utah. Could you see it as a young kid, like, hey, this kid might be something, or did he
I didn't
bloom
see it
really
till
late?
maybe about maybe he he was Andrew always had him playing up. Andrew was coaching a year above, so he was playing up a year at AAA. But if he would have been in his own age class, might have been a bit different.
Yeah,
But and he was tall too. I'd say maybe around 15. He had such a growth spurt. And I remember Dale Hawerchuk. Andrew told me Dale was GM of Barry Colts at the time, and Dale and Andrew were really close. They were each other's best mans. And Dale said, "I'm going to draft
yeah,
Jack." And I think he had the last pick in the first round. He took Jack, the last pick first round. But Andrew said he was going to Boston College. So Jack never did go to the OHL, and he did really well at Boston. And I guess Barry wasted their first round pick, but I guess he
yeah,
took a chance anyways.
yeah.
But they
Well, and
they were
his dad, just so everybody knows, his dad played in the NHL, Andrew McBain,
yeah.
correct?
Andrew played. I think well, he was a high draft pick. He was Howard Chuck's winger, I think, for about 9 years with the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
He was a
Okay.
great winger, and then I think the expansion draft. I think he finished in Ottawa. Funny, I was talking to Andrew a while ago. I said, "Are you playing any old boys hockey? You get out?" And he said, "Well, we had an alumni game, and." He says, I was on the ice. I thought I felt pretty good. I thought my hair was flowing in the wind. And he says, and then I watched the game on TV and I thought, wow, I stink. I'm never playing again. He says, I hung the skates up. So I thought it was pretty funny
Oh,
when he
wow.
told me. So,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So,
yeah.
John, you're going through some adversity right now. You had the double knee replacement, and we all knew it was coming, and you've been putting it off and finally made that decision to do it. Um, what led to that decision?
You know what? It's been hurting a long time. My, I, I always, I'm like you, Rich. I love hockey a lot. And I always think, oh, if I die on the ice, I want to play as long as I can. But my quality of life got so bad, like I just the pain and I couldn't walk. And I finally, I said to Evie, I said, if I can't ever play hockey again, it's fine. I can't live like this no more. Like it just got unbearable.
Yeah,
And it's so far so good. So I see the surgeon on the Monday the 20th, and he's the Toronto Marley doctor too, and he's all about going back to play hockey again. So I'm curious to see what he says. I've been working pretty hard at it, so I really want to get
yeah,
back on the ice. And as you know, we have a few people at our skate now with knees done, and they all say it's pretty good.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but
yeah. But
having
you're
two
playing
done,
golf. You're playing
yeah, I'm
golf,
playing
right?
golf, I'm riding, I'm trying to strengthen. It's all about strengthening the muscles, and we'll see how it goes. So, I feel like I could go on right now. He told me to wait 6 months. I think I'm at 5.
Yeah, yeah,
So we'll see. Uh, I really think I could do it right now, but I think a lot of healing's on the inside, the tendons and everything. I don't know
yeah,
much about it, but I'm not
yeah,
going to push it right now. I'm going to just
yeah,
wait the one more month, and then problem is when I go home, I wish I could find a bit slower skate to that skate I was telling you about. It's gonna, after half a year off, I'm going back to that. It's gonna be, you
yeah.
know,
Right. Yeah, with all those young guys. But so you
yeah,
probably had to think to yourself, I got to get it done, but I may not play hockey again. And that's something you've been doing your whole life. That's a tough thing to do. But like you said, if you weren't off the ice, if it was just a struggle, it might be worth it.
yeah, and it's gonna be wild too. I thought I would have a hard time coping this winter because 6 months off. I don't think I've been off 6 months in my life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that bad. I coming by the arena and seeing you guys and that's when it bothers you. You see the boys out there having fun and everything, have a beer afterwards. So I kind of stopped going because this is when it bothers me. If you stay
Yeah.
away, you forget about it. So I kind of just stayed away. At first I got down here, I was like going in watching you guys playing. I'm like, oh no, this is really bothering me now. Look, they're having fun. Damn it, I
Yeah.
miss this. So
Yeah. Yeah. Because like, well, now, what's it going to feel like when you step back on the ice? I mean, if it was me, I'd be scared. Like,
oh, I had a hip. I don't know if you knew, Rich. I had a hip done
yeah,
a while back, and
yeah,
I went back on. I was back after like 3 months, but for about, I think it probably took a year. Every time you went near the boards or you fell, you were always, and then it went away. But I'm thinking, two knees? How long is this going to take to go away? So it's probably got to be in your mind quite a bit, like going to some traffic or go near the boards or if you fall. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, time
yeah,
will heal it.
yeah.
We'll see what happens.
So, John, I named my podcast Shift Change. And the reason I did it because there's a moment that we all face as we're getting older where we have to change the way we play. And, you played at a pretty high level, but where did you finally one day say to yourself, to your wife, like, holy shit, like, I can't do this like I used to. It's really starting to affect me.
That's probably been a long time now. Thinking,
Yeah.
man, really going, downhill. Like, I think in our minds we think we're 20 still, but
Yeah.
when we see our body going,
Yeah.
it's really slowing down. And then, like I say, those young kids really give you a taste of reality when you're at home and you think you're pretty good still, and
Yeah.
they fly by you, or you go for a skate and they catch you. You're like, son of a bitch, these guys are
Yeah.
fast. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
you gotta get used to it. Our old boys tournaments will be 50 and over. I said, can't we even do 60?
Yeah,
Like,
you're pushing you're pushing the 60 and over. Like, cause
yeah, I'm like, let's keep going.
I was just in that tournament in Niagara Falls and like, John, I think I'm still a pretty good player at 57, but there were guys that were flying around out there at maybe just 50. And I thought, holy cow, I'm not even good anymore. You know what I mean? So,
I know, isn't it
um,
amazing the guys in their 50s that have kept with it and how good they are still? It's pretty
yeah,
amazing. You
yeah.
think you're the guy, and then you look around, oh, geez, there's a lot of guys that are still
Yeah,
pretty,
exactly.
pretty
So,
good.
but I think you learn to play smarter, right? So, what would you say, or what does it mean to you to play smarter? Like how have you
It's
played
funny you say
smart?
that, Rich. We were the Hockey News had a tournament every year in Toronto, and they gave pretty good prizes. And we've got a pretty good team over the years. Everybody on it played in Europe or played somewhere. We were winning. I think we started winning the 50 and over, and the Hockey News said, "Come back 40." We'd win it. Come back 30. They finally threw us in the Open one year. Maybe maybe we're all in our late 40s, and we go in it. And the other team, like I remember, we had some guys warming up with no helmets and they're bald. And I remember one of the kids says, "You're old enough to be my dad." And I just joked and I said, "What's your mother's name?" Maybe I am. Like I was
Ah,
getting it
yeah,
going. But they had three lines of young kids that were like, they were just going, 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 staying on too long. And we just had 10 guys every 25, 30 seconds. We were moving the biscuit. We'd change, slowing it down. And they were like three lines, just go. And we beat them. And
yeah,
they were so frustrated. And I thought, that's the way I used to play. And we calmed it down. We played smarter. We changed quick. We never got exhausted. And then I realized, oh yeah, we are, as we get older, play smarter.
yeah,
We move the puck, we change quick, you don't get exhausted. And it was funny
yeah.
that year they gave us these beautiful Timex watches with the fan in them as our gift to win. And they said, guys, don't come back, you're done. And I
Oh,
don't even know if that tournament's on anymore. That I think you do change as you get older for sure.
I think that's what a lot of older players get wrong is they don't play smart. They still want to go hard and you got to pace yourself. Even in an hour and 15 minute skate on a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday, you got to pace yourself. You got to play within the means that your body's giving you, right?
Yeah, it's true, right? You really do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I just love coming down here and the guys and the workout and like all our friends are related to hockey down here. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
why I even say to my son and my daughter, I said, as you get older, keep playing, whether it be soccer, baseball, and wherever you go, you'll you'll have tons of good friends, and they're all, seems like great people, and I think
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. I am so glad I brought a hockey bag down here. I mean, the first 2 years I was down here, Rachel was playing hockey with the guys at the open skate, and I would
Yeah.
watch. And I'm thinking, why ain't I playing down here? And I did that
Yeah.
for about the
Right.
first 2 years. I was like,
Yeah.
and she was playing,
Exactly.
and it was pretty
Wow.
funny. I did it now, and it's like, there's so many good friends down here and good people. So it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask you, what does hockey give you today that it didn't back then? You play all those years in youth hockey, but now you're in your, you're 50 plus. You push. Are you 60 now?
I'm 60 now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What does it give you now that you didn't get back then? What do you love about the game today?
I think it's all the friends you make from it. Like
Yeah.
you can
Okay.
go out and have fun. It's like even when I came down here, they were talking about Randy Exelby, and I'm like, Randy Exelby? Oh my, behind the mask.
Yep.
And I was like, he was our goalie one year at the Marlies, so I ran down and he had some photos in there, and it was like, and you always have that bond and that tie when you play together from way back
Yeah.
when. And I still reach out to him a little bit. We text here and there, but it's like we
Yeah.
were 15 years old when we played together, and we still have, you know, little stories.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Of,
Randy owned Behind the Mask Hockey, but he just sold it to Pure Hockey, which he made out like a bandit. But
yeah,
you're quite a legend around Pure Hockey. When I go in to buy some hockey stuff, they always ask me, John Landry in Arizona right now. So,
yeah,
but
that's funny.
hey,
I don't know why, but
yeah,
you
John,
heard the story on him with his 2 or 3 minutes of fame, right?
no,
Oh, so Landy, I never knew what happened to him. I think he went off to Lake Superior, and then he was with Montreal Canadiens farm team. And Patrick Waugh, I think, was their goalie, and they called him up as a backup. And I don't think they had any intentions of ever playing him, but Patrick had diarrhea that day and had to leave for a second. I think Randy, they put him in, and I think Randy played 2, 3 minutes that day, maybe a shot or two. You'd have to check it all out. And then Patrick came back, and Randy's claim to fame. He got, more than a lot of us, got the 2, 3 minutes of Montreal Canadiens net,
yep,
and because Patrick had diarrhea and had to run to the room, but he got in, and I'm pretty sure that's a story on Randy. So with Montreal, but I think it was with Sherbrooke Canadians back then. I think
yeah, I
they,
think you're right,
yeah.
Sherbrooke. Yeah. So,
So
John,
it's pretty good.
couple of questions, couple more questions here. Funniest teammate you ever played with? Now, I'm going to tell you, if I ask anybody in Toronto the funniest teammate they ever played with, they're going to tell me it was Landry. But who's the funniest teammate you ever played with?
We had this guy, Dave Nichols. They called him Midnight Nichols in Kitchener.
Yeah,
And we'd be sitting in the room and everybody's like quiet, passing the smelling salts around. And he used to have these black glasses with white tape on them and spaz, and everybody would start pounding their sticks going spaz. And
yeah.
he would just bounce his head off bathroom stalls. And he was such a clown. And everybody was so uptight and so tense. And he would just break it. And he would just be like laughing so hard. But Crozier hated it. Crozier
Oh, of
despised him
course.
because oh yeah, Crozier would come in and like just snap on him because everybody was giggling and laughing on a big game, all because of him when everybody was all, worked up for a game. And he did it every
Yeah,
time. He didn't care what Joe said and he kept doing it. But he was pretty funny. And I think
yeah.
today he's a jail guard out in Picton or somewhere in Kingston. It's pretty wild for a guy who was such a clown. But he was a good guy. And he was a pretty
Is
good
there
hockey player too. But um I don't think anybody was gonna touch him because he wasn't serious enough.
is there one moment that you'll probably never forget from your hockey career? Is there one, if somebody said, John, you could pick one time in your career, what's that moment you're going to tell every time?
Which one? It's kind of thinking about yourself a bit. I remember when I went to Germany and I thought I was playing pretty good, and my dad came over, and I we had a pretty good crowd. So my dad came, and I told the reporter my dad was coming to town, a small town. They put it in the paper. So when I was on the ice and they went to drop the puck, the crowd kept singing Johnny Landry and stomping the crowd.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
looked up at my dad, and he's pretty proud. And then I came up afterwards. He goes, "Oh, how much did you have to pay everybody to do that?"
Oh,
But I
jeez.
just remember, and I thought this is amazing. And they couldn't drop it, and they were singing it. And my dad had come over, and it felt really good. That moment really, like, I don't really tell people about that moment, but it was pretty cool. Like just
Yeah,
that they did that, and you had to thank the crowd with your stick at the time, and it
yeah,
kind of felt special for about 30 seconds. So it was pretty good. So,
yeah. That's awesome. Last question for you, John. When you step back on the ice, I don't know if it's going to be this summer or when you get back in Toronto and over the summer in Toronto. What do you think that moment's going to be like for you with two new knees?
I'm
Are you
actually hoping I
excited?
don't fall right on my face, to be honest with you, Rich.
Yeah,
I keep thinking
yeah,
I'm going to step out and just go straight down, right? That's what I'm hoping. I mean, I don't know what to expect. I really don't. I don't know if it's going to hurt, if I'm going to fall, if I'll feel like $6 million man. I'm kind of anxious to try it, but at the same time, I'm kind of scared too. So
yeah,
it'll be
yeah,
interesting. And then, like Mark Cole has been great. Um, I was with him last night and he said, just come out, do a warm up, see how you feel. And I'm even kind of afraid to just trip and,
fall. Yeah,
I could even try it, but I think just
yeah.
wait the extra month and then see what happens. But
Well,
what's
I
been
can,
great down here when I did the surgery at home, the group
yeah,
of friends down here, the support, people texting and everything, and jokes, of
yeah,
course. But it's been, the support's been amazing actually. For
yeah. Well, I'll tell you,
like I
we're
say,
we're missing the John Landry end-to-end rushes, and but you not being there has allowed me to score way more goals this summer. So I appreciate you not being there. It's been
that's
really
handy.
nice summer for me. So,
Yeah,
but
and you've had to control the room yourself right now. That's a lot of work, one guy, right?
yeah, I think they're getting sick of me, John.
Are they?
I'm a little loud, I'm a little obnoxious, and but now, with the Shift Change podcast, the guys all want to talk about it, and
Well, that's good.
it's
Is
been
Barry not
fun.
picking up the load a little bit in the room? No.
He is, yeah, he is, but he's I think he has a hard time keeping up with me, so it's crazy.
That's
So, but
good.
John, that's all I got for you, buddy. I appreciate you doing this for me, and I'm going to be away for a couple weeks, but hopefully I see you before you go back to Toronto.
I'm leaving actually in 2 days, so
Okay.
um, but I will be in touch. And thanks for having me, Rich. It was great. It was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. So
Sounds good, Johnny. Take care. Say hi to your wife and enjoy your summer.
perfect. Thank you, Rich, and we'll see you
Thanks,
soon.
buddy. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody, that's what shift change is about. It's not just staying in the game, but finding your way back through adversity. John's coming back off of a double knee replacement. We can't wait to see how it plays out for him. We'll see you next time. Remember, like, subscribe, share, enjoy, tell your friends about it. If you know anybody that wants to be on shift change that's got a great story, please let me know. Take care. We'll talk next time.